Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Y'all know me as a real estate investor and real estate enthusiast. I love talking about money and helping you learn about money. Well, folks, if you've ever asked yourself, I wonder if Kevin's seen this video or this bit of research about the market crash coming. The odds are not only have I seen it or watched it or read it, I've already made a response video to it. And that's why I've got a real estate playlist. But today we have a new article that is actually kind of getting me a little like, whoa, I didn't see that one coming. Look at the title of this one, okay? Just the title of this one. Folks, Storm Clouds Approaching the Housing Market, and it's by the Federal Reserve. I'm like, what? No, not yet, no. Now, in all fairness, we all want to be able to buy them cheap foreclosures, right? And I want to be there right there with y'all. I want to be the guy making them YouTube videos if the market, tanks and we're all able to go out there with a Topo Chico and go fix up some, foreclosures. Now, I don't want anybody to get hurt in the process, and that's also why I make these videos, because if I can prevent you from over leveraging and getting hurt, well then that's good too, because then that prepares you, right, to be able to go shopping. We all want to go shopping. So this one had me a little like, Federal Reserve, researcher at the Federal Reserve, haven't seen this one before. Let's dive into this one, and so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, in fairness, this was put together by Bill Emmons, who is a, quote, assistant vice president and economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis and the lead economist for the bank's Center for Household Financial Stability. Assistant vice president. So he's like the assistant to the vice president, or is the assistant? This is like straight out of The Office, folks. I wonder if he literally deals with that same problem. But anyway, let's go ahead and go through his article and see what he says. And obviously we'll add a commentary because, well, that's why you watch these videos, because for some reason y'all like me talking about this analytical stuff. Well, some of you do. Like 5% of people are like, no, dislike, I disagree, I want foreclosures now. Except we agree, though. We do want more buying opportunities, just without people getting hurt. Hopefully they're properties people have walked away from. Anyway, first thing we're going to look at is mortgage delinquencies. So we've heard this before. Okay, this is not news, right? Mortgage Bankers Association reported that 4.4% of first lien mortgages were at least 90 days past due or in foreclosure. And this is bad because it basically puts this into this big bucket and it labels it past due or in foreclosure. Right, but how much of that bucket is filled up of people in forbearance, right? Is it half the people? Is it 90% of the people, right? We have mortgage forbearance. So the mortgage delinquency argument, honestly, I get a little exhausted hearing it. I don't blame people for putting it into there. This is why the housing market's gonna crash. Look at this spike. We have a spike in mortgage delinquencies now, just like we did back right before 2008. Oh my gosh. I get it. It makes sense. Like if you're gonna make a housing crash video, yes, use mortgage delinquencies. But let's be real, until we know how many people are actually in mortgage forbearance, out of all of these people who are 90 days delinquent, this doesn't help us. Let's put it this way, and we can make a prediction out of this, right? This is what we know. We know that right now, approximately 6% of all mortgages are in forbearance. That means they do not have to make payments for 180 days. Well, that means if 6% of all houses are in forbearance, at some point, you're going to have 6% be 90 days past due, right? And right now we're at, what are we at? 4.4% in the second quarter. And the second quarter was April, May, and June. So it wouldn't surprise me if that even ticked up a bit, because we do have a greater amount of people in forbearance. So this one's not too big of a deal for me. I'm not so worried about that one. I kind of just put that one, I write that one off on Congress as long as we got forbearance, which you could still get up to a year of forbearance today. You could start today and get 360 days of mortgage forbearance if you wanted to. And all you have to do is raise your hand and go, I want mortgage forbearance. You'll show up as 90 days past due, but they promise you'll be able to fix your credit afterwards. But seriously, you could then add that in most cases to the back of your loan. Okay, so here, and yeah, seriously, it's not supposed to hit your credit. Like, it shows, you still show up as current on your credit report. But for showing delinquencies, yeah, they still record mortgages in forbearance as a delinquent. Which I know that might have sounded a little bit confusing there, so I'm gonna pull something up for us here. Mostly because, like, you show up current on your credit report, but here, let me just move myself over here for a second. Watch this. So this is the Mortgage Bankers Association, and you gotta look at where this data is actually coming from, right? But don't worry, I did all that for you. So take a look at this. Where is it? Forbes, here it is, there. Okay, the Mortgage Bankers Association asks servicers are people who are collecting payments, right? The companies collecting mortgage payments, to report loans in forbearance as delinquent as if the payment was not made based on the original terms of the mortgage. So basically, they are telling you, even if you're current on your credit and you're in forbearance, the Mortgage Bankers Association is going to say you are delinquent. So keep that in mind when we're looking at, you know, anybody who's throwing up these, you know, delinquency statistics or whatever. Kind of misleading. All right, let's go on to another one. Let's put me here. How about right there? Oh my gosh, I got cut off. No, right there. Okay, that's better. I'm a little cut off, but whatever. Okay, here's the next argument. Bank loan loss provision. So I'm gonna explain this one. Banks must set aside reserves out of current earnings to absorb likely future losses on the loans they make. Banks take into account temporary factors like foreclosure moratoriums and other information, some of it non-public, that makes banks the best judges of likely losses. The recent spike in large bank loan loss provisions, therefore, is a credible signal of serious problems ahead for many borrowers. Okay, so all this red chicken scratch here, by the way, is just how I talk to myself, like check these. And so that's exactly what I did. I went to the banks. So to learn a little bit more about loan loss reserves, I went into the actual bank's earnings reports. And here is the current report from Chase from April 2020. I'd actually made a video about this back in April, the day this came out. But anyway, in this, we can actually see that credit losses that they're setting aside for future loan losses for the following: consumer and business banking, so that could be small businesses, that could be personal loans, personal lines of credit, home lending, and then credit cards and auto. All of those combined had loan loss provisions set aside of $5.8 billion, up 4.5 from a year earlier, driven predominantly in net charge-offs for credit cards, which was about 1.3 billion. Okay, so most of it they're saying was going to credit cards, but they still set aside, if I do 1.3 billion for net charge-offs, right? Those are the charge-offs. If we take that off, we still have 4.5 billion that Chase is setting aside for losses for consumer and business banking, home lending, and autos. So basically, they don't specifically say they expect housing issues, but they're still setting aside money for what could include housing losses. And in fairness, when we go to July, we kind of had the same numbers. Another $5.8 billion were set aside for loss reserves. 1.3 again went to credit cards. That again leaves 4.5 billion for all of these things: consumer, business banking, which these are probably sections getting hit worse than housing. I hate to say it, but probably. Auto, probably also getting hurt, and housing. So those four things have to share this 4.5 billion. Okay, and no clear mention that there's any particular issue in real estate. In fact, the only thing they say about real estate is that home lending net revenue was 1.7 billion, up 51%, predominantly driven by higher production margins. AKA, they're actually making more money on real estate. So, like, okay, all right, okay, Mr. Fed dude, I get it, but, you know, you're writing an article here saying that we've got big issues coming, but these loan loss reserves don't directly tell us that we have a housing crisis coming. Instead, the banks are mostly pointing the finger at credit card issues. especially when we dig into the data. Now, in fairness, tomorrow we're going to have a new report coming out from Chase. Tomorrow is Chase's earnings release day, so we'll have to look into that and see if they mention anything particularly about real estate. So we'll pay attention to that. But let's go ahead and see what other factor we have for a potential real estate crash coming. So here's the other. Banks' lending standards. Another important indicator of future housing and other economic conditions is how lax or restrictive banks are when making new loans, in contrast to loan loss provisions which reflect loans already made. Banks' lending standards are an indicator of what economists call credit supply, the terms and standards on which banks are willing to make loans. Makes sense. That sounds totally reasonable. Tightening standards, which we have seen tightening standards, he is right about that, are likely to result in fewer loans being made in the future. Very true. This is a good part, very good argument, which could weaken housing activity. This is accurate. This is where I start saying, okay, he's got a point. Tighter lending is going to be a potential issue. And he does have this chart, I think, here on the next page. Mortgage lending standards tighten. Yep, we are almost as tight as we were in 2008. Not quite as tight, but almost as tight as we were in 2008. Consumer confidence. A survey evidence from August shows consumer confidence near a 6-year low. Despite the surging stock market and falling unemployment, consumers remained wary about the future. If consumer confidence remains subdued, it is unlikely that housing will continue to be strong. Good argument. I completely agree with that. Weak consumer confidence does at some point wear on people and exhaust people to the point where they say, why? Why am I going to buy right now? Totally fair argument. That's actually a good one. And then he mentions that there's just continued uncertainty. Okay, so out of the arguments he gives here, and there's another thing I want to mention at the beginning, but out of the arguments he gives here, I have to say mortgage delinquencies does not mean anything for a housing crash. This is wrong. The Mortgage Bankers Association is including mortgage forbearances. I think that's stupid. That's a mistake. They should honestly not include people in forbearance, but they do, and therefore, that's not an issue in my opinion. It could potentially be, but we can't cite it as an issue yet. This loan loss reserves, I can't say that we have enough data to say with certainty that housing's a crack in this. Otherwise, I feel like the banks would be saying that. Now, technically, they don't have to. Maybe they don't want to say that. Maybe they're trying to juke us. So this is going to be interesting. So I call this one a maybe. Mortgage delinquency, no. The loan loss reserves, you know what? It's a maybe. Because at the beginning of the pandemic, that's why banks also put money aside. They're like, oh my gosh, what if we have a housing market crash as well? They didn't know that housing was going to boom. Nobody knew that. I mean, now it's almost it feels a little bubbly at some point, you know? So this one's a maybe. I actually think this was a good research, and I think that's a maybe. Mortgage lending standards tightening? Yes, this is a problem. This is accurate. Fluctuations in consumer confidence? Yes. Now, fortunately, consumer confidence is not nowhere near as low as what we had in the 2008 range, but yes, it's an issue. Absolutely. Now, I do want to mention something that bothered me a little bit. At the beginning of his article, he says that housing can be a leading indicator for the rest of the market. And it can be. It's not always, but it can be. For example, in 2018, I was making a lot of videos, which was actually the year my real estate investing course came out. Gosh, I've added so many lectures since then. I always keep the course updated. But that's crazy. It's been 2 years now of y'all supporting it and us doing live streams together. But anyway, in 2018, I was making videos saying, hey, the market's crashing. And I was getting a lot of people leaving comments on my channel. Oh, but Kevin, you're just saying the market's crashing because you're a realtor and you want people to have to panic sell their houses. It's like I can never say anything anymore because people are like, oh, he's a realtor. I can't trust a word he says. Dude, I only represent myself. So what? I have a real estate license. Like, big freaking deal. I'm talking about myself because I'm worried about myself. And I'm wanting to share that knowledge with you. But in 2018, the Federal Reserve raised rates. It led real estate prices to instantly tank, like 10 to 12%. Rates went up like 1%. And then the stock market actually didn't crash until about 6 months after that, in like November, December of 2018. And it wasn't until the Fed panicked and stopped raising rates and then started lowering rates again that things went back to normal. You know, people don't like it when the punch bowl gets taken away. Anyway, mortgage delinquencies. He's wrong about those. Those don't matter right now. Maybe they will, but right now they don't. I will give him credit for loan loss reserves. Maybe that's going to be an issue. We got to pay attention to that. I will give credit for mortgage lending standards tightening. Yes, he is correct about that. And fluctuations in consumer confidence. These are very good arguments. So thank you to this person for putting these arguments together. And so these are all things to keep an eye on, which obviously that's what I do. And we will keep an eye on these. Tomorrow, the JP Morgan data comes out, so we'll see if they mention anything about real estate. But as is usual, my expectation is we're not really going to see cracks until there's a reason for interest rates to go up. Although again, these are things to pay attention to. So hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully it wasn't too deep, too analytical. Let me know what you think about it. If you like it, or if it was too deep, let me know. But anyway, hopefully you liked it, and we'll see you next time.